Welcome to the very first podcast of BSing with S&B. I'm Sean, and this is Brian.
Hello!
And we're going to break down, some football games, go over some draft stuff, some coaching carousel. But first, we're going to get our team allegiances out the way. So I'm Philly everything, Eagles, Sixers, Phillies. I'm a Flyers fan when they're in the playoffs. And I also root for the Warriors because Stephen Curry is my favorite player. What about you, Brian, the front runner? Brian.
Well, first of all, we're not going to acknowledge hockey as a real sport until the playoffs come around. And at that time, it's probably still not even going to be considered a real sport. Not to insult hockey fans. It's just, it's not that important to us. But I will say I'm a big fan of Boston area sports, the Red Sox, the Celtics, the Bruins, even though, like I said, not too important in terms of hockey. But football is where it gets a little bit, as Sean called, front-runnery. I'm a big Notre Dame fan, and then also the Dallas Cowboys. When you grow up in Florida to the age of 6, you don't really have much allegiance to the Tampa Bay area. We'll just put it like that. So that's me, the smarter of the two sports fans, obviously.
Brian, how did you become a Cowboys fan? I mean, the Bucks had those creamsicle uniforms and everything. How did you not like those?
I guess when you're born in 1992 and your brother's a little bit older than you, Emmitt Smith and Troy Aikman being half concussed all the time is a little bit more entertaining.
Oh, so your brother was the front runner and brought you along with him.
Yeah, we'll blame Eugene on that one.
All right. Well, so first we're going to talk about the games that came in on New Year's. First with South Carolina's 23 unanswered points to a trash offense of Michigan. I don't understand what happened in that game.
It's simple. Jim Harbaugh has zero offensive creativity. It's painful to watch, and you can tell that his game is much better suited for the NFL, where teams kind of line up, they run the I, they run a lot of 11 personnel. In college, against these SEC defenses, you're not just going to be able to overpower teams. And when you don't have a quarterback that can complete a pass more than 5 yards downfield, you have no chance. And that's kind of what happened to them. The Brandon Peters and they're just no good quarterback play in the state of Michigan right now.
I think it was just solely because their offense was terrible. I mean, like you said, they don't have a quarterback. And their defense was amazing, especially losing 10 starters. I mean, not too many teams can, win. Would they win 8 games this year? 9 games?
Yeah. But here's the good stat for you, and I'm going to troll a little bit here. Jim Harbaugh's last 17 games at Michigan, he's 9-8. Are we sure he's good when he doesn't have Andrew Luck at quarterback? I'm just saying. I mean, I know he was pretty successful at San Francisco. He picked the wrong of the two quarterbacks in that situation, in my opinion. He almost won a Super Bowl with Kaepernick, but, I mean, he's out of the league now.
Would have won a Super Bowl if the lights didn't go out.
Okay, so now we're going to blame Beyonce for Baltimore Ravens winning a Super Bowl. But I'm just saying, I think, he has the talent there. You said there was a lot of roster turnover. They're still, according to Scout, one of the 10 most talented rosters in college football. But has he ever really developed a quarterback other than Andrew Luck? I mean, it's a fair point, I think.
I mean, if he could ever get a quarterback there, I think he would be able to do something. Any of these people that have to transfer from schools, like Eason from Georgia, a whole bunch of people, if he got any of those dudes and he got him to come to Michigan, I think they could actually, do something.
Well, he did get former 5-star recruit Shea Patterson from Ole Miss after that whole scenario, so they're trying to get immediate eligibility with him. So, I mean, that's about as talented as a guy he's had since Andrew Luck. So if he's immediately eligible for next year, they got a lot of talent coming back. The front seven will be dominant again. There won't be any excuses. You're not going to be able to lose by 30 to Penn State and however much they did to Michigan. So it'll be interesting to see, or to Ohio State. So it'll be interesting to see.
Yeah, that's true. And on the next point, our boy Scott Frost could probably take me and you and put us at quarterback, and we could throw for 500 yards. He doesn't care who he plays. He just has a defense, our offense that can just score on anybody.
It's amazing. And the fact that in the first half yesterday, Mackenzie Milton was 2 of 15, and they were still in the game. I think they were leading at halftime. The quarterback was 2 of 15, and then they ended up pulling out against the SEC defense. I mean, that was amazing to watch.
Didn't they have a receiver that had 230 yards or something receiving?
The offense is so explosive. You can tell he's basically Chip Kelly light with his offense, which, he spent a couple years. Yeah, spent a couple years up in Oregon, and even though he was a terrible personnel, NFL man, he still no one ever doubted his offensive chops. And you can see Scott Frost cut from the same cloth. Seems like a genuine guy. I mean, he stayed to coach the bowl game. He wanted it all to be about the players. He wasn't a me first like we see with a lot of these coaches. And, man, they're just so much fun to watch. I mean, Mackenzie Milton was a 2-star recruit out of Hawaii that was originally supposed to go on to Oregon. He brought him with him to UCF, and he goes undefeated. It's incredible. I've never seen anything like it.
I think Mackenzie Milton learned a bunch from Marcus Mariota, who he said he watched all the time.
You could tell they're very similar. I mean, he's got that. He's mobile, but he's not, a dynamic runner. But he's able to, pick up yards with his legs. Kind of how Marcus Mariota, more so how he is right now in the NFL than when he was in college, when he was busting off these 60-yard runs and the read option and everything.
I was also going to say I don't think Marcus Mariota. We have had the discussion before. We don't know if he's good at football anymore.
It's tough. I mean, but then I'll also say this. Who's he throwing the ball to? I mean, is Rashard Matthews his best receiver? Yeah,
but we can get a little bit into that a little bit later when we actually talk about their playoff matchup. So how about your Fighting Irish?
I mean, that was a big win. I thought they were going to get killed up front on both sides of the ball, even though LSU had a couple guys, including Arden Key, out. But, man, I mean, this was a good year. They went 4-8 last year. First-year starting quarterback who completed less than 50% of his passes, and Brandon Wimbush, who was terrible, made my eyes bleed to watch play quarterback at certain points in the season. They turned to Ian Book, who I also don't think is a good quarterback. And they actually somehow pull out this game against very athletic LSU defense. Miles Boykin making the greatest catch of the bowl season. So now I'm going to put him on my Heisman ballot next year, just out of pure joy. But, I mean, this was a fun team. Next year is going to be pretty interesting. They lose the left side of the line, but everyone else is back. So, I think that was a good jumping spot. They have a great recruiting class coming in with a lot of athletes on both sides of the ball. Be interesting to see what they can do.
I mean, I don't understand how those guys beat LSU, the same team that had 46 turnovers against Miami. I don't get it. I don't understand what happened in that game. Or, I mean, obviously it was an outlier, but still, I don't understand.
It's interesting, too. A week before the bowl game, Brian Kelly actually came out and said that Notre Dame will reevaluate their schedule going forward. In the past, they really wanted to stack their schedule because they didn't have that conference championship game. They didn't have that 13th game. So that's why they scheduled teams like Georgia this year. They play Georgia again in 2019. They play Wisconsin in the future. They play Arkansas. So now that they realize, hey, you can make the playoff. If you only win 12 games, you go 11-1 like Alabama did, like Ohio State did last year. So they're gonna build in one of those cupcakes. They had one this year with Miami, Ohio. Everybody else is Power 5, and 8 of those teams, or 7 of those teams, are ranked in the top 25. They're going to change that schedule going forward so it's a little bit manageable because when you go, it was like NC State, then Wake Forest, who had a good year. They won 8 games. Then they had Navy, Miami, Stanford. I mean, it was tough, and that was after already playing Georgia, USC, Michigan State early in the year. They just ran out of gas down the stretch.
Yeah, y'all tried to lose to Navy, too.
We did, and when you have the ball for 2 minutes in the second half, it's amazing that you actually won.
Yeah, I mean, watching that Army-Navy game, this is off topic, but watching that Army-Navy game, is like 2 possessions in the second half. This is ridiculous.
It's death by 1,000 paper cuts. I mean, I think whenever you play a triple option team, it's a cruel and unusual punishment. You just 3 yards, sure. 3 yards, 3 yards. You get the 4th and 1, and then it's another 3 yards. It's a never-ending circle of fullback dives and midline and veer.
All right, so on to the playoff games. We had Georgia-Oklahoma, which might have been the game of the year. I thought that
might have been
ridiculous.
Well, I mean, there was the UCF-Memphis game. It was incredible. I mean, oh my God! I went from wanting Lincoln Riley to be the next head coach of the Dallas Cowboys to immediately realizing that he would have been a great fit for the Dallas Cowboys with the way he coached in the second half. I mean,
yeah, exactly. And then in that overtime, he was like Garrett 2.0.
I know he tightened up. It almost seemed like the moment got too big for him. They stopped with the tempo. They got conservative with the play calling. In the first overtime, it was 3 runs in a row. The third one wasn't. They didn't even go to Ronnie Anderson. It was a jet sweep. The guy who hadn't touched the ball all game. I mean, maybe he had that play.
H-back. Like, what in the world?
Yeah,
Ronnie Anderson is a man-child. He had 26 carries for 201 yards and 2 touchdowns. And you're just like, you know what? And then they took the ball completely out of Baker's hands basically in the second half, and especially in the overtime. Like, I don't understand how. I don't know.
It was weird. I mean, they were going for the kill in the first half. They were keeping the tempo up. They were going at him, and in the second half, Kirby made a little bit of an adjustment, and then I don't even want to talk about Oklahoma's defense. Malpractice. It wasn't even so much effort at times. It was just the scheme was horrible. I mean, you have a nose or a 1 tech and then a 5 technique. You got 18 people that could have run through the hole on some of those plays. It was horrendous. And now the defensive coordinator isn't related to the head coach. I wouldn't be surprised if they went a different way. That was awful.
Georgia averaged 9.3 yards a carry. Over a whole football game. 9.3. They had 34 carries for 317 yards and 5 touchdowns.
And that's incredible. I mean, and thank goodness that overtime starts at 25, or else that last run would have been for 80 yards. Oklahoma couldn't get a stop, and they got the bodies, they got the team talent. I don't want to hear though they don't play defense in the Big 12. I mean, you got to make a stop. And all they needed was just, 1 stop in the second half. They couldn't get it.
Yeah, and on to the next playoff game, the Bama-Clemson game. That did not go anywhere like I expected it to go. That was a throttling in the opposite direction. I thought Clemson was going to, jump all over them and be able to do something. They had 188 yards of total offense. Like, Alabama shut them down. I mean, Granted, they shut Alabama down too, and Alabama got a lot of their points off of turnovers and getting in field position. But, I was very surprised that, Clemson couldn't do anything. I thought Dabo would have had a much better game plan than that.
I think what we're starting to see is Clemson, like you said, they played great defensively, but they lost Chad Morris, who came in as the offensive coordinator when they got Deshaun Watson, worked with him in high school. He went to SMU, now he's at Arkansas. And apparently it's pretty tough to play well against Alabama if Deshaun Watson isn't your quarterback. I mean, we found that out. Kelly Bryant went from being the 4th overall pick in Walter Football's 2019 mock draft to looking like a statue back there. I mean, it was tough. And it wasn't even like really he was missing throws that often. It was just Alabama was swarming on defense.
Yeah, they were all over him. My boy Minkah Fitzpatrick he had the seat belts out there.
Oh, I love Minkah Fitzpatrick. I wish he could end up as a Cowboy next year because we got a whole bunch of wasted space with Byron Jones and Jeff Heath. He's phenomenal to watch.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I do really like him. And then on to we had a couple of other games. I mean, I'm not really going to talk much about Ohio State destroying USC, although Darnold did declare today, so that was nice to see. Browns quarterback in the making. And then we finally saw Saquon Barkley step up against a team that was actually a real team, so that was nice to see, since that's been our one knock on him, for forever, that he doesn't really show up against major competition. So, I think all in all, it was a pretty good weekend for college football. Now we're on to the NFL games. Or no, we could talk about the championship game. The line started out as Bama minus 4.5. Do you like that?
I think so. Yeah. I mean, with what we saw last week, it's tough to bet against Nick Saban at this point. I mean, I guess if anyone would know them, it'd be Kirby Smart.
This is going to be a smash mouth game. I mean, Alabama is ranked 89th in the nation in passing offense and 10th in rushing, and then Georgia is ranked 96th in passing offense and 5th in rushing.
Yep.
Although Jake
Yeah.
Fromm didn't look like a freshman quarterback against Oklahoma, so
Yeah, Fromm looked fine. The thing is, Kurt Herbstreit brought up in the podcast, they don't want to, or on the broadcast, they don't want to throw the ball. They want to be
hmm
60-40 running the ball. So that way Fromm is able to be, effective. Because when you got to load the box, it's a quarterback's best friend. Just ask Prescott. So he can be effective, but
he's
he's not a guy he can be effective, but he can't be a guy that you say, hey, go out there, throw the ball 30 times today. I mean, they're going to have to
hmm
be able to set up the run. And I don't know if they are. Anthony, one of the outside linebackers for Alabama, he had knee surgery. He's not going to play, which is a shame.
hmm
But I don't know how much that's going to matter because, I mean, against Clemson, that front seven was just flat out dominant.
Yeah. I think they would, depending on how their defensive line does. I think they have a chance to get to Jalen. Because I still don't know about him. I don't know if he's very good. I mean, he makes plays with his feet, but he's just like so inaccurate at times.
Yeah.
I don't know. I really don't know about him. Like I said, I think it's going to be a smash mouth game I mean, I know it's Oklahoma's defense, their Big 12 defense, but Georgia still ran for 317 yards. So,
Yeah.
I mean, granted, they won't do that against Alabama, but I mean, I think they can, definitely smash the ball in there, make it a field position game.
Like you said, Alabama didn't really light it up offensively against Clemson. They made a couple turnovers. They scored on defense. But it's not like they came away just, imposing their will offensively on Clemson. And Georgia's very comparable. I mean, they don't have the edge rushers or the front that Clemson has, but they're still, incredibly athletic. And my man Roquan Smith's going to be flying around out there. So it's going to be a lot of fun to watch if you enjoy, like you said, smash mouth football.
Mm-hmm. All right, and on to the next one. Then we'll get into the NFL playoff games. We got the Titans versus the Chiefs, or at the Chiefs, and we got KC -8. What do you think about that one?
Yeah. Is Tennessee one of the worst playoff teams we've seen in a while? I mean, what do they do well? Last year I'd say run the ball, but I don't even think they really ran the ball that well this year. Mariota, are we sure he's a good quarterback? Is it him? Is it the lack of weapons? I don't know. And Andy Reid, to me, he kind of seems a lot like Marty Schottenheimer, where he gets it done in the regular season time after time. But is he ever going to win that big game? I mean, he got close with Philly. He was consistently, in NFC championships, made a Super Bowl. But is he ever really going to win the big game for you? I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, he definitely hasn't shown it. Had a discussion about that, if he could ever win that big game, what would he think, or what did we think about that? Yeah, I honestly don't know. I honestly think this is a pretty easy game for the Chiefs.
Yeah.
I think the only way that they lose this game is if they give up a bunch of rush yards. I mean, because I think that's the only way, that Tennessee can really stay in this game, like we talked about a little bit earlier. I mean, he doesn't really have anybody to pass the ball to. Eric Decker is on the outside. I mean, he's pretty good. You got Matthews, and you got Corey Davis. So, I mean, I don't know. It'd definitely be tough.
Yeah, it'll be these wild card games so often. I mean, last year the favorites were 4-0 against the spread in the wild card. I think we're probably going to see the same thing again this year. I just don't like any of the matchups for the underdogs.
I mean, like you said, the Titans don't run the ball well, but the Chiefs do have the 25th ranked rush defense. So, I mean, granted they've played a little bit better. I mean, as of late, but I think that's going to be. That's going to be the matchup to watch.
Yeah, give me Kansas City. They have the better skill players, and they have the better playmakers on defense. I think Justin Houston's able to make a big play, or Marcus Peters is able to make a big play, more so than anybody that's lining up on that side of the ball for Tennessee.
Do you like the -8, or would you not take that?
That's a lot. That's a lot. I like that in a tease. We'll put it that way.
Yeah.
When you get in the playoffs, even though Kansas City, hostile environment, anything over a touchdown, I'm a little bit hesitant on, but I would probably lean Kansas City just because I don't see how Tennessee is able to really score that many points. And ever since Andy Reid handed over the play calling, that offense has been on fire. So
Yeah. And then we next Saturday game we got is the Falcons versus the Rams. Got the Rams -6. I think that's a little bit high, but um, I think I would be most interested to see how Aaron Donald and that D line does against the Falcons. I mean, because they could really make Matt Ryan's day a live or night a living hell.
Oh my
Um,
goodness, yeah.
and then apparently Andy Levitre didn't practice today, or yeah, I think it was yesterday. He didn't practice, so that'll be, you know,
This Falcons team, I feel like all year people have been waiting to get back to where they were last year. But I mean, Kyle Shanahan is a huge loss. Not a lot of people are talking about it. He put down a hell of a stretch in San Francisco. Everyone's anointing Jimmy G the next great quarterback. I'm not exactly sure. I mean, I think he's good. I think he's going to be a good, serviceable quarterback. But I also have to realize that he has probably the best play caller and offensive coordinator in football helping him out a little bit.
mhm.
In terms of Atlanta, Steve Sarkisian, he's just been a disaster. The offense, you can just tell, it hasn't been as creative as last year. Julio Jones hasn't been as effective, and I think a little bit of that has to do with scheme, getting him good targets. And LA, man, this team is fun to watch. I loved their team total over. Didn't bet it, got a little gun shy, but really it was staring at me. I believe it was like 6.5. They flew over. Jared Goff has taken the step forward, and I think it's more so a byproduct of just Sean McVay coming in, being a living, breathing head coach in the city of Los Angeles for him, and utilizing some of the weapons they've had there on offense.
Mhm.
So they've been fun to watch. I think they're gonna be able to score points on the Falcons. I think they're going to be able to get up 35, 38 points on them. So I think that's 6.5. I think it's even gone up a little bit. I'd probably play LA in this too.
The one thing I would like to see though, Devontae Freeman hasn't looked good recently since coming back from that concussion, but the Rams do have the 28th ranked rush defense. So, and that could, I mean, I know everybody's used to seeing the Falcons, air it out and throw it all over to Julio and Sanu and all of them. But I think getting Freeman and Coleman involved could be, a big help for them.
Yeah, absolutely.
Um,
They have to because they got to take some of the pressure off of Matt Ryan. We've seen time and time again him kind of flounder in the playoffs here. They like you said, they got to get that running game going. They got two studs back there. They got to figure out a way to make them effective.
mhm. And then on to the Sunday games, you got the Bills versus the Jags. Jags
Ugh.
-8. That is going to be a terrible game. Like that
Oh my!
game could. I mean, even though I think if Shady plays, the Bills have a chance because I mean, as good as the Jags are, their rush defense isn't great. So I think playing against if Shady can play and actually be healthy, which probably he won't be because he got carted off with an ankle injury. I mean, it was a sprained ankle. I think more of that was shock back to his McDevitt days than actually being injured. But I think if he can play, they have a really good chance. And then you always got the chance of Blake Bortles turning back into Blake Bortles in the playoffs.
Yeah, I mean this game's the pinnacle of just poor quarterback play. I think Tyrod Taylor is okay, but this is going to be tough. I love Jacksonville. I actually think Jacksonville is a sleeper to make the Super Bowl out of the AFC. I really like them. I wouldn't be surprised one bit because we've just seen at times how dominant defenses can take over in the postseason.
With
And
Blake Bortles.
with Blake, Rex Grossman has made it to a Super Bowl. Trent
Yeah,
Dilfer
but
has made it
Rex
to a Super Bowl.
Grossman at that time wasn't always turning over the ball and actually had like a running game to support him. I mean, Fournette has been like a walking train wreck since like week 7. He can't get anything going. He still looks hurt. Like I don't know.
Yeah, I mean but they got the two best corners in
That
football
is true.
probably. I mean, and Marcel Darius and the rest of Calais Campbell on the defensive front. Miles Jack is getting back to what we expected him to be coming out of college. That defense is a lot of fun. They fly around. I wouldn't be surprised I mean, they've already seen what they can do against Pittsburgh early this year, where they made Ben Roethlisberger's day a living hell. I wouldn't be surprised if they just get dialed in, they get into a rhythm, and they go on that type of run in the playoffs.
I think that was also before Ben became Ben again. I don't know what he was like. They sleptwalked through the
Yeah.
first half of the season. They were 2-2 after the first month and ripped off, however many 10 straight victories until they had to play the Pats. So I mean, I think if that game is played again, I think that's it's a little bit different story.
Yeah.
And then on to the last game. You got the Panthers versus the Saints. Saints -6 in this one. Who do you like in this one?
I like the Saints. I love how Sean Payton utilizes his running backs. He finds a way to get Kamara and Mark Ingram touches in space. I think that's the important thing. I feel like their offensive line play has been very good. And the defense is just going to come down to, are they able to make turnovers? This reminds me a lot of that Saints team that won a Super Bowl about 10 years ago. Opportunistic defense, dynamic offense. They're a lot of fun to watch, and I can't trust Carolina. I don't know which Cam Newton's going to show up. Christian McCaffrey's his best weapon, question mark. I think he's fine. I think he's fine, but am I going to count on Christian McCaffrey to break a big play in a close game? Probably not. So I'm going to lean New Orleans here.
I mean, if Greg Olsen can, come back and be a little bit more than, injured Greg Olsen, I think they have a legitimate chance. I mean, Cam, although I don't think he's that good, he's always good for one of those, where did that come from games. I mean,
Yeah.
He did it for a whole season, so I think he definitely has the chance to put the team on his back and actually win that game. But I honestly don't know how they would stop Kamara and Ingram. I mean, the first two times they played, they did whatever they wanted to.
Yeah.
I think they had something like 400 and something combined yards in the first two games that they played. So, I honestly think the game is going to come down to that. And then even if they do stop that, they still have a Hall of Famer and Drew Brees sitting there, and Michael Thomas is no slouch. So,
yep.
I mean, they have a whole bunch of weapons.
The only thing that makes me feel a little bit hesitant, division teams playing for the third time. Saints swept them in the regular season, so it's tough to beat a team in the NFL 3 times, but I'm still going to lean New Orleans.
All right, so that wraps it up for our playoff look, or the teams we were looking at in the playoffs. Now I'm going to talk about the Eagles for a second. I am the biggest Panthers and Rams fan this weekend. I don't want any parts of the Saints coming into Philly. I mean, if the Falcons win on Saturday, I'm fine with that. I'll play the Falcons. I don't mind playing the Falcons. But I don't want any parts of the Saints. I don't want to see Alvin Kamara matched up on Jenkins. I don't want to see Alvin Kamara matched up on a linebacker. And that's the person that scares me the most. I mean, Ingram had his way with us when they came in here a couple years ago to play. But I'm more so scared of Alvin Kamara because he can actually change the game in like one play. So I'll definitely be rooting for the Rams and the Panthers. But like I said, if the Falcons win, I'll be fine with that too. And then on to your boy. How does Marvin Lewis still have a job?
I have no idea. What? I mean, I guess this is just like chalking up the Bengals in a nutshot, right? Like they do Bengals things all the time. Whether it's like Vontaze Burfict getting thrown out of a game or Andy Dalton slicking his hair back and throwing 3 interceptions in the playoff. Like they're fine with mediocrity. They don't care. They'd rather go 7-9, 8-8 each year than take a chance on a young head coach and maybe it backfires and they go 4-12. I mean, I don't get it. A lot of people say, well, look what the Bengals were before Marvin Lewis got there. He's been there 15 years, and they still haven't won a playoff game. I mean, it's time. We're seeing right now with the 49ers who had that renaissance down the stretch, with the Los Angeles Rams, the NFL has such a problem with groupthink. They recycle the same old coordinators as head coaches. It doesn't work out. You bring in these younger coaches. They have new ideas. It oftentimes worked. Like Chip Kelly, when they brought him in, that Eagles team, what was their record the year before?
They were 4-12,
and he ended up going 10-6. Correct?
Yep.
All because it was just some new ideas, a new, fresh approach. I think more teams need to do that, but I mean the NFL is just stuck in their old ways.
Although I have to thank Andy for letting the team quit on him that year because that got us Lane Johnson, who is now the best tackle in football. So I'm fine with that.
Best right tackle in football.
What was that now?
The best right tackle.
So who's the best tackle? Tyron Smith.
It would be Tyron Smith, who's out here.
He doesn't have a back, man.
That doesn't matter. He can block from the shoulder up. That's all he needs.
In 15 years, how many double-digit win seasons do you think Marvin Lewis has?
15 years. I'm gonna say 4.
6.
6. That's better than I thought. I mean, he had that stretch of 5 years. He made the playoffs in a row, didn't he?
Yeah, but all those seasons weren't even over 500 or double
No.
digit win seasons. I
Oh,
mean, they were
that's
over
incredible.
500, but he was getting in the playoffs at like 9-7.
Oh my God. Must be nice. I don't know what that's like as a Cowboy fan this year. I just I don't understand. I mean, I guess if you're going to keep Andy Dalton as your quarterback, you might as well leave Marvin Lewis as your coach, so that way when you blow it up, you get rid of both of them. But it just doesn't make any sense. They're wasting AJ Green, and it's the most painful thing to watch in the world. He's the best
AJ can
receiver.
come on over and wear a midnight green. That would be perfectly fine with me. Did you say he's the best receiver in football?
Yeah, in my opinion, he is.
So Julio Jones and Antonio Bryant and Odell Beckham just fell off the map. They don't exist anymore.
The only one that I'll give you, and you're probably right about, is Antonio Brown. But right now, Odell doesn't have a leg, and he's a sociopath. And who is the other gentleman? Julio Jones. That foot worries me. He's missed too much time. He hasn't been healthy consistently enough for me. AJ Green, he's had a little bit of injury history here and there, but he has Andy Dalton throwing him the ball, and he's still a top 5 receiver in the NFL year in, year out.
I mean, if Andy does one thing, he'll sling it. He'll throw it up to you. I mean,
Yeah, Buffalo thanks him. Buffalo thanks him for that. And the crazy thing is, Andy Dalton's contract was like 5 years, $100 million. That's insane.
They thought he was good at football.
Kirk Cousins is going to get some team's entire salary cap this year. They're going to pay him
Andy Dalton robbed somebody. He must have him and Marvin Jones both have nudes of the owner.
Oh my God, yeah. It's
It's the only. And speaking of Marvin Jones, we got to pour one out for Carson Palmer, who spent most of his career with Marvin Lewis and couldn't get get any playoff W's.
Always good, but never great. It was a very weird career for Carson Palmer. Heisman winner who didn't bust in the NFL, but he never really, gave you that over-the-top, excellent season or moment or performance, but he was just always good.
He put it together for 2 of the years that I can remember. The first year in Arizona, he was out of his mind, and then that one year, probably the year that Bengals had the best chance when he tore his ACL in the first minute of the game in the playoff game. So definitely
He's 12th in career passing yards and touchdowns in the NFL.
Yeah, he was consistently good, just never great. Yeah. Like your boy Romo.
Oh, you stop it!
I'm sorry, I just had to throw a little shot in there. He's a good football player though. So out of the openings, got the Bears, the Lions, the Colts, Giants, Raiders, and Cardinals. Which one do you think is the best job?
Absolutely not the Cardinals. Old roster, no quarterback, tough up and coming division. Not the Bears, because I don't think Mitchell Trubisky is a good quarterback, and
I think all that matters with coaching. I mean, John Fox, we saw that a coach can change everything. I mean, granted, it might not be Jared Goff out there slinging it and being crazy with the ball, but hitting you in the right scheme and and also the fact that he has me and you that he's throwing the ball to.
That's another.
Doesn't help.
They miss on receiver year after year in their draft.
For sure.
I like Detroit. I love Detroit. I'm an irrational Matthew Stafford fan. I think he has the best arm in football, and I think he's never really had a complete team around him. He's got all the weapons in the world offensively, whoever comes in. I mean, you got Golden Tate, Theo Riddick, all those guys who can make plays. They just need to get a little bit more talent on the defense, which, there's a reason. There's a draft every year. They can still build. Ziggy Ansah, just to be seen what they do with him. But, I think they're 1 or 2 pieces away. That division, though Aaron Rodgers is in that division, I don't really like Green Bay's roster talent outside of Aaron Rodgers. And then the Bears, as we mentioned, it's just Vikings. But I don't know. Do we expect the Viking quarterback play to be this good again next year? It's tough. I would go.
Case Keenum was going cash out anyway.
Yeah, I mean, Sammy Sleeves, Theodore
He's going to be
Bridgewater.
elsewhere. He's going to be
Yeah,
throwing passes somewhere else.
Washington probably.
Yeah.
It's funny,
um,
bro. I mean,
I think the best chance is the Giants. I know they need some work done. I'm just saying, man. I think they need some work done on their offensive line. I think Wayne Gallman could be pretty good. I mean, they have weapons coming out their nose, and they have, solid defense or had a solid defense. I mean, everybody being hurt and then locker room problems probably doesn't help. But I think honestly, having the corner. Well, I'm not exactly sure what they do with DRC and then Eli Apple. That was a train wreck. So I mean, they have at least two D backs. So I mean, maybe I need to rethink that. I don't. Maybe they aren't the best option. But I mean they have the number 2 pick.
3.
Okay, number 3. I think they can get one of those quarterbacks. Even if they have to, move up and get one, I think they could definitely get one of those quarterbacks. And I mean, the Colts is pretty attractive, but you never know when Andrew Luck is going to come back. And then they still don't have a defense, so.
No, the Colts I would not want to touch with a 10-foot pole, just because, like you said, it's all on Andrew Luck's shoulder. Literally, it's all on his shoulder. If he comes back and he's Andrew Luck, well then they've got a chance. But man, that injury is scary. Actually, the Giants pick second. My mistake. The Giants do pick second.
Yeah, so they can get Rosen or Darnold.
Yeah, I mean, they have to, right? We were talking about this the other day. When you have an opportunity to take a generational quarterback, and your quarterback's 38 years old, you have to do it, right? Even if he sits for a year or two. Yeah. I mean, look what the Patriots did, even with Jimmy G. They took him, I believe, in the second round or early third round. And they kind of wanted to wait and see how much juice Tom Brady had left in the tank. We know Eli Manning is getting to the end of the juice in his tank. So I don't see how you can go and pass on one of these two guys who everyone seems to love a heck of a lot more than the quarterbacks last year.
For sure. Yeah, so it'll be interesting to see what happens with those different things. And I think this will wrap it up for the first ever edition of BSing with S&B. I'll see you later, bud.
All right, take care. Also, shout out 808s and Hot Takes. Wherever you're listening to this podcast, I don't know where it's going to be distributed, but if you can, give us a like, give us a 5-star review if that's possible. Whatever you can do, show us some love. We're going to try to bring you some entertainment content as we go down the line.
It'll be on SoundCloud and iTunes as of right now.
That's right. Then give us a like and a 5-star review. And I'll be here talking to you guys. Hopefully, I think we're going to try Tuesdays from here on out.
Yeah, Tuesdays. Yep. All right, bud. I'll talk to you.
All right. Take care, man.
All right. Bye-bye.